The late 12th century was a time of high tension. The Crusader kingdom of Jerusalem, a Christian stronghold, was surrounded by a rising Muslim empire. Saladin, a brilliant and devout leader, had united Egypt and Syria, encircling the Crusaders. Inside Jerusalem, the kingdom was divided. King Baldwin IV, the leper king, had held things together, but his death unleashed chaos. King Guy of Lusignan, weak and manipulated by aggressive newcomers like Reynald of Châtillon and Gerard of Rydford, pushed for war. The native nobility, led by Raymond of Tripoli, urged caution and diplomacy, knowing the kingdom couldn't survive a full-scale war. Their advice was dismissed as cowardice. The kingdom was split, vulnerable and on the brink of disaster. A fragile truce with Saladin barely held, but Saladin was preparing for holy war, assembling the largest army he'd ever commanded. The Crusaders, meanwhile, argued among themselves, their unity shattered. The military orders, the Templars and Hospitallers, acted independently, further weakening the king's authority. The stage was set for a confrontation. War was inevitable. The Crusaders were in no shape to face it. The powder keg was ready. All it needed was a spark. The fate of Jerusalem hung by a thread. The next move would decide the kingdom's survival. The world watched as the storm gathered. The Crusaders braced for the coming onslaught. The kingdom's darkest hour was about to begin. The spark came from Reynald of Châtillon, a man infamous for his violence and greed. Ignoring the truce, Reynald attacked a wealthy Muslim caravan, seizing its goods and imprisoning its people. Rumors swirled that Saladin's own sister was among the captives, a personal insult Saladin could not ignore. Saladin demanded justice from King Guy, return the loot, free the prisoners, and punish Reynald. King Guy, weak and beholden to the war party, failed to act. Reynald refused to comply, claiming he had no truce with Saladin. Guy's inability to control his vassal exposed the kingdom's weakness. For Saladin, this was the final straw. He now had the perfect justification for war. Saladin declared jihad, rallying forces from Egypt, Syria, and beyond. The call to arms echoed across the Muslim world. The Crusaders had handed Saladin the moral high ground. War was now unavoidable. The kingdom's divisions had doomed it to face Saladin's wrath. The die was cast. Saladin's armies began to move. The Crusaders, fractured and unprepared, would soon face the consequences of Reynald's reckless gamble. The countdown to catastrophe had begun. The fate of Jerusalem was sealed by one man's arrogance. The storm was upon them. Saladin struck first, besieging Tiberias, where Raymond of Tripoli's wife was trapped. The Crusader army gathered at La Safori, a strong, well-watered position. Raymond urged caution, better to lose Tiberias than risk the entire army. But the war party, led by Gerard of Rydford and Reynald, accused him of cowardice. King Guy, desperate to prove himself, ignored Raymond's advice. He ordered the army to march across 15 miles of arid, hostile terrain to relieve Tiberias. The decision was disastrous. The Crusaders abandoned their water source, marching into a trap in the July heat. Saladin's strategy was working. He forced the Crusaders to fight on his terms. The army's fate was sealed before the battle even began. The Crusaders marched out of safety and into the desert, their doom all but certain. The next 48 hours would decide the fate of the kingdom. The leaders knew it was a mistake, but pride and pressure prevailed. The Crusader army was walking into disaster. The trap was set. The kingdom's only shield was about to be shattered. The march to Tiberias would become a march to ruin. The cost of ignoring wise counsel would soon be paid in blood. The Crusaders' greatest strength was about to become their greatest weakness. The desert awaited. The Crusader march quickly turned into a nightmare. Saladin's cavalry harassed the column relentlessly, firing arrows and cutting off stragglers. The heat was merciless. Thirst became unbearable. Wells were poisoned or destroyed. Water was out of reach. The army's discipline crumbled as men and horses collapsed. By nightfall, the Crusaders were trapped near the horns of Hattin, surrounded and cut off from water. Saladin's men tormented them through the night with drums, fires, and smoke. The Crusaders were exhausted, demoralized, and desperate. Saladin had used the land, the climate, and his mobility to perfection. By dawn, the Crusader army was a broken, desperate mob. The battle was already lost. Saladin's trap had closed. The Crusaders' fate was sealed before swords were even drawn. The perfect plan had left them with no escape. The end was near. July 4th, 1187, the Crusader army, parched and broken, faced annihilation. Foot soldiers, maddened by thirst, broke ranks and were cut down. King Guy ordered a desperate charge, but the knights' horses were too weak. Saladin's forces, fresh and well-positioned, absorbed the attack and countered fiercely. Raymond of Tripoli led a breakout and escaped, leaving the rest behind. The remaining knights, led by King Guy, made their last stand at the horns of Hattin. Twice they rallied, twice they were driven back. The sacred true cross, carried into battle, was captured, shattering Crusader morale. The sight of the lost relic broke the last resistance. King Guy was captured. The Crusader leadership fell. Saladin's victory was total. The Crusader army was annihilated. Only 2 men would not see mercy. Saladin offered water to King Guy, but executed Reynald of Châtillon, fulfilling his oath. The fighting strength of the kingdom was destroyed in a single day. The fall of the true cross marked the end of an era. The Crusaders' faith and power were shattered. Saladin's triumph would echo across the world. The Holy Land was lost. The Crusader dream died on the slopes of Hattin. The consequences would be felt for generations. The age of Crusader dominance was over. The world had changed forever. The sun set on the kingdom. Hattin was not just a defeat, it was the collapse of the Crusader kingdom. With the army destroyed, Saladin swept through the Holy Land unopposed. City after city fell: Acre, Tiberias, Caesarea, Arsuf, Jaffa. Defenders were few, resistance was futile. Many cities surrendered, hoping for mercy. Saladin, focused on Jerusalem, often granted generous terms. By September, Jerusalem was surrounded, packed with refugees, but nearly defenseless. Balian of Ibelin organized a last stand, but knew it was hopeless. After a brief siege, he negotiated the city's surrender. On October 2nd, 1187, Saladin entered Jerusalem peacefully, forbidding massacre. The fall of Jerusalem sent shockwaves through Europe. The Crusader kingdom was reduced to a few coastal cities. The dream of a powerful Christian state in the Holy Land was dead. Only the ports remained, clinging to survival. The age of coastal defense had begun. The Battle of Hattin is a timeless lesson in strategy and leadership. The Crusaders' defeat was not fate, it was the result of avoidable mistakes. Logistics mattered, abandoning water doomed the army. Leadership mattered, division and pride led to disaster. Saladin's unity and cunning turned the environment into a weapon. The Crusaders ignored wise counsel and underestimated their enemy. Their overconfidence and lack of planning sealed their fate. Hattin teaches that arrogance, poor leadership, and internal division are fatal. The consequences were immense. The fall of Jerusalem, the end of an era, and the spark for the Third Crusade. The story of Hattin is more than history. It's a warning. In war, as in life, unity, preparation, and humility are the keys to survival. The lessons of Hattin echo through the centuries. The cost of failure is written in the sands of the Holy Land. The Crusaders paid the ultimate price for their mistakes. The world would never be the same. The legacy of Hattin endures.